Well guys, we're back. Games Galaxy Concert Megastore. But this time, it's Christmassy. Yes guys, today we are back in the wonderful Games Galaxy Megastore in the heart of concert, and it's always a special occasion when I come here, and today is none other. They've had a nice influx of new stuff, which is always a feast for the eyes. It's always nice to come here and just have a rattle around and see what they have. Whether it's Sega Saturn, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, a lot of imports, a lot of obscure and very rare titles that you just don't see in the likes of your CEX. It's always worth coming up once every few months, even once a month, to see what they've got. And today was also another great time. Import SNES is always really cool. Look, I mean, what we've got here, we've got Super Mario Kart, we've got Star Fox, we've got Final Fantasy, we've got Ranma, we've got Dragon Quest, we've got Mario Picross. We've got absolutely tons of titles. There's titles I don't even know about. Look at that in the corner there, Mario All-Stars, absolutely beautiful. We've got the Famicom Family Computer. We've got SimCity for the Super Famicom. We've got Harvest Moon for the Super Famicom. Absolutely wealth of titles here, including stuff I've just never even seen before. Stuff that I couldn't even tell you the first thing about. Turbo Graphics. We've got Wonder Swan. Look at that, absolutely beautiful Wonder Swan. I would know, I used to own one. We've got Final Fantasy on the Wonder Swan, we've got One Piece titles on the Wonder Swan, we've got a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh titles for the Game Boy Color. Now I'm going to be honest, Yu-Gi-Oh was one of those titles that I just used to play and play and play. I got into it around 2003 when the Game Boy Advance had a huge amount of titles, and I used to love going back and just playing some of the older ones. Not played Yu-Gi-Oh in quite some time now, however, so it's probably going to be quite a difficult barrier of entry, and I know we have got that Yu-Gi-Oh collection on the Switch now, but it's still fantastic to see these. A bunch of Game Boy Color titles. We've got Mario Golf on the Game Boy Color, a few others such as Tamagotchi. There's some really nice obscure titles that I just wouldn't expect to see otherwise. N64 and the box collection of their games has gone down a little bit. That Chameleon Twist that I saw last time is now gone. Turok 2. Now Turok 2 is an interesting title because it was one of those titles that I think in the UK got really hyped up. And I'd be really hyped up. I remember seeing it getting like 96%, 95%, like really high marks that's kind of comparable to stuff like Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64. Yet, when it's talked about the best N64 games of all time, Turok 2 is always absent. I always found that quite strange. We've got a lot of interesting N64 Japanese titles. We've got Mario Tennis, we've got Hey You Pikachu, we've got that Blastoise that I talked about last time, we've got 1080 Snowboarding. We've got a few more obscure ones such as Derby Stallion 64 and Tamagotchi. Always nice to see some obscure titles as well as the main heavy hitters. We've got a few American titles and a few DS American titles as well. Up onto Game Boy, and there's some nice titles here and there. We've got that Tetris 2 that we talked about last time. We've got Monopoly. I always wondered, how does Monopoly work on these handheld devices? Do they work quite as well as otherwise? Same with Rampage. Rampage 2, that is an awesome title that I played on the PlayStation 1. It is on my N64 list, but on Game Boy, is it something that is worth picking up? There's a few other titles as well. I can see the Dragon Ball Z for the Game Boy Color. I can see Dragon Warrior Monsters. Now, Dragon Warrior Monsters for me was a very gateway title. I was into Pokémon. However, I saw Dragon Warrior Monsters in a review, and I always wanted to try it, and I fell in love with it. Now, this was the very first time we actually had a Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest title in the UK, and as soon as I could, I picked it up. We also have Harvest Moon 2, which is another title that you don't see quite as often. I feel like it's more common than Harvest Moon 1. maybe because Harvest Moon 1 was a launch title. I did have Harvest Moon 1 on the Game Boy Color as my launch title, but Harvest Moon 2, I don't remember playing much of it, but is one that I do want to try and pick up again sometime. A lot of really nice Game Boy Advance titles, stuff that you just don't see quite as often. Soccer Kids, we've got Scrabble, we've got 2 versions of Scrabble actually. Harry Potter, which is a decent game on the Game Boy Advance. We have a bunch of Pokemon titles as well. We've got Pokemon Yellow, we've got Pokemon Leaf Green, we've got Emerald, we've got Silver, we've got Ruby, we've got Pokemon Blue, we've also got Pokemon Pinball and Pokemon Sapphire. A nice collection of Pokemon titles that we will look at in a little bit in the future in this video. A few other really nice titles as well. We've got the Mega Man Zero collections, we've got the F1 Race. Now, I don't actually see the standard F1 title quite as much. It does tend to be that big multi-pack title with the extra stuff in that I do tend to see quite a little bit more than the normal one. Which, yeah, it's always quite interesting. Super Nintendo, and always a popular area here. We've got some interesting titles, including the Page Master. Can you remember the Page Master? We were talking about this one the other day, and it's been about 32 years, I believe, since the Page Master originally came out, and I have so many memories of this movie. Never played the game. I can't imagine it's a great game, to be honest, but I never played the game. But it's interesting, the Page Master as a movie as well, you can't watch it because half of it was made by like Hanna-Barbera, who were owned by Warner Brothers, but then it was also co-produced, I believe, by like Disney or something like that. So it's like one of those ones where it's like you just can't watch it because it's in licensing hell. Absolutely clean box though. Very clean indeed. Beautiful stuff. Moving down, we've got a few other titles. We've got Street Fighter, we've got Lion King, Mario's Missing Lemmings. I do want Lemmings on this SNES. A few others, we've got that theme park that I keep eyeing up. We've got some CDs, some 3DO stuff. We've also got GameCube. Now, they did sell that Twilight Princess, which I did have my eye on. But we've got a few other titles. We've got the Pokemon Coliseum edition, which actually has Pokemon Box as the extra disc, which is something that you don't see too often. We also have Simpsons Hit and Run, we've got Rogue Leader, Luigi's Mansion, Resi 4, a nice looking black GameCube on top of that as well. We've got a few loose discs, we've got Mario Party 4 and Simpsons Hit and Run as player's choice, which you don't always see too often. A few other more rarer titles and a few very nice Japanese titles as well. Always really nice treat going through the GameCube selection in here, and this is just part of their GameCube selection. They do have a bunch more around the corner. We also have like the Wii and a few miscellaneous Nintendo stuff. I call them miscellaneous. A few tip spooks as well, which I thought was pretty cool. We don't see them too often. The rack of game guides spins and spins. Where it stops, well, somebody probably wins. Very nice selection here. Oh dear, 2 World 2. This is a promotional copy, however, so slightly more interesting. Remember when they tried to make a third Banjo-Kazooie title with nuts and bolts, and it pretty much killed the entire franchise forever? It's quite surprising that they've never actually tried to actually make another classic Banjo-Kazooie in the original style. I suppose Rare's just not the same as they were. I know a lot of people call for Nintendo to buy Rare, but let's face it, they're not what they were 25 years ago. Some rarer PlayStation 1 titles here. We've got Castlevania and we've got Cull Decker along with Muppet Monsters. A few other rarer titles that you just don't see often. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is a weird one for me because honestly, I own this limited edition one, however the box is all cracked and it's missing the limited edition CD. I'm genuinely considering buying a different case and just kind of selling it on, replacing the stuff inside and selling it on. I don't know, I like it, but it's a weird one. I think the problem is with this particular title is that it just somehow never made it to modern consoles. All of the other Castlevania titles, obviously except 64 and stuff like that, but from around that era are all on like the Switch and PlayStation 4, whereas this one still remains at least Sony locked anyway. I don't know if it's actually on Sony PlayStation 3 or something like that, but it's Sony locked no matter which way we look at it. PlayStation 1 in general I'm not collecting for, but it's always nice to see a few titles that you just don't see quite as often. I always go, when I go to these like retro game events and stuff like that, there's always a big box of PlayStation, and I just feel like they are like hidden treasures. You kind of always kind of see stuff that you've never heard of and stuff that you might not be interested in, but there's always something that you probably kind of want, at least to try out, or something that kind of, you think, oh, this might be decent. PGA European Tour Golf. Now, that's an expensive one on the N64. I'm assuming it's going to be dirt cheap on PlayStation 1. Time Crisis, that's a great one. Theme Park World. Oh, now this is an interesting one because this is at a point where Roller Coaster Tycoon was out when Theme Park World released. EA had obviously got their hands into Bullfrog, I believe, at this point as well. So they were starting to see a few changes. Now, Theme Park and Theme Hospital are two fantastic titles, and I absolutely love them to bits. Theme Park World is not. Now, I do love the whole fact that you can build a roller coaster and ride it, but I think just about everything else just felt really slow, really clunky. The advisor that was in the bottom right was always really annoying. Just about everything just felt really slow, but at the same time, we had Roller Coaster Tycoon that was just knocking it out of its park with fantastic looking graphics and just really worked well. Theme Park World really struggled, and Theme Park Inc. was kind of what killed the franchise, at least for me anyway. Now, how many games of Worms is there on the PlayStation 1? There's Worms, I'm assuming Worms 2 was on there. There's Worms Armageddon, which also got an N64 release. There's Worms Pinball, which I did see at another retro game shop a few months ago. And I believe Worms World Party was also on there. Maybe Worms 2 wasn't. Was Worms Blast on there as well? I know it's on Game Boy Advance and GameCube, so I'm not sure if it might be PlayStation 2. I would love to own a Worms collection, but I kind of want to have the full art version of the box, rather than like the little windowed one, the budget release I suppose we'll call them. But yeah, it's one I would like to have all of them on. Wallace and Gromit Project Zoo. Now this is actually a title I want to pick up, but I need to pick it up on the GameCube. And I heard it was okay. I'm a huge fan of Wallace and Gromit. I think just about everybody in the UK is. I've never played this game, and I don't hear many people talking about it. I'm assuming it's not amazing, but it's one that I do want to try. My local CEX had the GameCube one in for forever at one point, but of course once things started getting more popular with retro gaming collecting, that one went straight out the window. It is on my list to collect. Have you played it? Let me know, is it worth trying out, or if it's just something that should maybe just stay in obscurity forever. The DS is always a fantastic search for, and some unique titles here. Dungeon Maker, Valkyrie Profile, Ace Attorney, plenty more alternative DSs. Pokemon Type-In, I remember Pokemon Type-In, really weird game. Zelda, Metroid Prime Hunters, Pokemon Gold, Nintendogs, plenty of loose carts as well. Honestly, it's always really nice just to have a look and see what unique titles they've got in some of these shops for DS titles, because there's lots of really hidden gems that people just don't talk about other than the Nintendo ones. Galaxy Games' Pokemon selection is always extensive, and this is just the tip of the iceberg of what they've got. I always find myself going in and just spending so much in terms of Pokemon cards, simply because I'm collecting full art trainers, so there's always plenty of trainers that I want to try and pick up, because I just never end up pulling them out of packs. But I think they're pretty fair and good in terms of the value for Pokemon cards. I think they're on the cheaper side compared to what I've seen in terms of some of the other ones. Especially when you compare to like eBay and stuff like that. It's always really nice to pick them up and just have a nice little route around, because obviously you get to see what condition they've got. They've got a nice selection of modern, they've got a nice selection of like retro and of vintage, they call them, don't they? In terms of Pokemon cards, along with some of the new releases from the new sets as well, which is, it makes it really nice. They've got like binders where you can just buy like cheap singles and stuff like that, which is always cool. Loose carts, and honestly, loose carts are always quite nice to see. It's always nice to have a little rummage around and see what they've got in here. I do prefer box, but I am thinking for stuff like Game Boy and stuff like that, I will probably end up going loose for a bunch of titles that, simply because you just don't see them enough. One thing I have noticed when I have came out for these retro game adventures is to start making a list of which sports games I need for N64. I need that many, but every time I look at the board, I always think, what do I need, what do I not? Wrestling games easy, NBA, NHL, not so much. PlayStation 4, and honestly, it's always nice to rummage in a PlayStation 4 selection that isn't completely FIFA and Call of Duty. Honestly, I really appreciate that, just kind of seeing different stuff. Farmers vs Zombies. I've never heard of this one. Is it like a Plants vs Zombies ripoff? Industry Giant 2. Now, I'm going to be honest, I actually really like this one. This is one that I played over the years. This is obviously a PlayStation 4 port of, I think it was like a 2000s PC game. It's like a Transport Fever, Transport Tycoon kind of game, but it's also kind of very industry focused. So you got to build up industries, you got to like meet demand and supply and transport it off to somewhere else. I think this is the franchise that eventually became Transport Fever 2, which is one of my all-time favourite PC games at this point. PlayStation's always nice to have a look at though. We've got Ys 9, which is not as good as Ys 8, I don't believe, but I did still enjoy it. I still had a good time with it. It is one of my Nintendo Switch collection, but I have played it through on the PlayStation 4, so it's one that I really did enjoy my time with it. I got the platinum with it, and it's a good Ys game, just not quite as good as Ys Lacrimosa of Dana, at least in my opinion anyway. A few other more cheaper titles, so these are obviously the second-hand ones. We've got Wonder Boy, What is the Secret to Your Power? Now, The Last Guardian is actually a title I would actually love to play. I do like Shadow of the Colossus, and I liked Ego enough. I'm going to be honest, I kind of am going to be walking in expecting the Guardian, or whatever the monster thing is, to just die at the end. And I kind of feel like the whole game's going to guilt-trip me into believing that that's going to happen. Either they're going to pull the rug out and it's going to be fine, or it's going to be really emotional. This is the one that took ages to come out. I think I got my PS4 because I wanted to play this game, and it came out, or maybe PS3, and then it came out on PS4, something like that. It was kind of like weird. It's been a long time, but I don't hear anybody talking about it. It came and went. It was very forgettable, sadly. One for the maybe pile. Dungeons, I picked this one up last time. I mean, I'm still tempted with it though. GameCube, there's a few nice titles here and there. I'm eyeing up Crazy Taxi. There's a few others. I probably just want to get the Harry Potter ones as well. I'm not getting a full collection of GameCube, but I'm kind of like building up stuff, so if I do want to try and do that, it'll be as easy as possible. A lot of these are just common titles, which I don't necessarily need to pick up. This one I remember being really wanting when I was younger. Universal Studios. Now, I was absolutely huge on Back to the Future when the GameCube released. Absolutely huge on it. And I really wanted this. Apparently, this is kind of just like, you go around picking up litter and doing like chores to get like a little cutscene of part of the ride. And yeah, it was really disappointing. I want to try it, but I don't think I want to kind of prioritize buying it. Switch itself, they've got some really nice titles. I think there's pretty much every guy actually own or is in the collection, or I just kind of want to try and get something else instead. I think in the back of my mind there's some stuff I want to kind of pick up in the Game Boy selection especially, that I kind of just like, maybe not pick up a Nintendo Switch one at this point. Snippet clips you don't see too often, which is a shame. That is on the list. This one, shovelware package, absolutely fantastic box. Very good. They are a winner. Final Fantasy 9 you just don't see often at all. Obviously this is an import, but even pre-owned, it's an expensive one. It is one of the more expensive ones. I think this is the only one I'm missing. I think I'm missing 12 as well from my Final Fantasy collection. I can get almost anywhere in terms of PlayAsia and stuff like that. I might go back and get this one. I'm not sure. If there's nothing else, I might pick this one up. This is a nice stack of new trade-ins, I believe, that they had. Some really nice heavy hitters there. Twisted Metal Black, I don't see that. Okami. We see a few of the fighting games. Vampire Knight, I remember seeing that one all the time. Ultimate Spider-Man, both in normal and platinum version. Just titles that you just don't see quite as often when you go to places like CEX and stuff like that. It's always nice to see more PS2 titles. Now, at this point, I start hearing some very excited chatter from behind me. And I turned around to see some boxes on the table. Stuff that hadn't been put out onto the floor yet. Get excited. Game Boy games were the first thing on the course, and some very nice titles here that we don't see too often, including Earthworm Jim 2. And this one, Gekido. Now, this is actually one that I wanted to pick up for quite some time. It's not one that you see too often, but I remember seeing this in Dixon's of all places years and years ago, and just never got around to buying it. Now it's fairly rare, so of course I want it in my collection. Cool bricks! These bricks are certainly cool. And yes, you can probably imagine what type of game this is. That's right, an Arkanoid, a alleyway clone. Honestly, I love these type of games. I love these little pick up and play puzzle type games where you can just pick them up, have a blast with them, and put them down after an hour or so without having to lose too much progress. Always a nice little addition to anyone's collection. And I'm going to be honest, this was really clean, a really nice addition that I kind of wanted. D2. Now, this is a Dreamcast title that was only released in Japan and in North America. And this is an interesting one. This is a survival horror that, from all accounts, is not too great. However, of course, it is a rarer title that you don't see too often. I'm going to assume that this is going to appeal to a very specific type of people. I'm just getting into survival horror myself. I never really played Resident Evil, I never played Silent Hill, I didn't play a lot of those staples growing up, but I am starting to get into them via some of the newer titles such as Crow County. More Game Boy games and Looney Tunes. This is by Sunsoft as well. Now, the Looney Tunes had quite a few titles on the Game Boy. I remember having a Sylvester and Tweety one that came out around the launch of the console. However, I do see a lot of Looney Tunes ones pop up here and there. Of course, we had the Crazy Castle series, which is one that I picked up, I think Crazy Castle 3 or 4 at one point. But I never actually sank any time into them for a good 20 years. Very tempted with this one. Cluster, another puzzle game that again looks like another alleyway type title, which honestly I'd be tempted to pick up. Donkey Kong Grand 3 on the Game Boy. These Player's Choice ones are definitely unique. I think I have Link's Awakening. I think my childhood copy of Link's Awakening was a Player's Choice one, but honestly for a while they just weren't interesting. I think a lot of people avoided them, but of course now, because some people are starting to collect them, there are a lot more eyes on these particular titles. Aladdin. Now, everybody knows Disneyland being an absolutely fantastic title on both the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo. I actually didn't realise it got a Game Boy Advance port, which is rather interesting, because to be honest, if I'm going to play it, I'm going to try it on the Game Boy Advance. But yeah, have you guys played this version of it? Let me know. Simpsons Treehouse of Horror and Tetris DX. Honestly, I've got to say, these versions are all super clean as well. They are so nice condition. And it's titles that you just don't see quite as often as you would otherwise. Cannon Spike, again another Dreamcast game. I don't know much about them, but is that Cammy from Street Fighter? Box number 2 is a bunch of, well, a bit of everything. A lot of imports here. We've got Yakuza Fury, we've got Sengoku Anthology, which looks like a fighting game. And honestly, it's just nice to see titles that you just don't see too often. I can see Seaman for the Dreamcast in there. A limited box which I'm being shown here, which is Eco, and I believe it's the Eco Shadow of the Colossus 2-pack, which, honestly, that is a gem in itself. I picked that up on the PlayStation 3 a long time ago, and I enjoyed Shadow of the Colossus. I didn't enjoy it as much as I think I would have if I played it originally on the PlayStation 2, but Eco was something else entirely. A really fantastic 2-pack. Loom, some Super Nintendo titles, Magical Quest, 1080 Snowbound for the GameCube. Like I said, we've got a bit of everything in this box. And actually, 1080 Snowbound is a title that I actually haven't got for the GameCube quite so yet. So it is one that does need to be picked up at some point. NTSC, N64 titles, and these are sealed. So we've got NBA in the Zone, we've got a few Super Nintendo titles, Tecmo Super Bowl. I think I've got that card only for some reason. I think it was quite rare at one point. We see more boxes being brought out. Mission Impossible. I think there's Bugs Life's in there. Yeah, Bugs Life. NASCAR. A few titles that I don't actually own in terms of even owning in general. Nagano Winter Olympics, which I think I picked up here last time as a PAL version. Seaman, which is one of the most unique titles I think ever made. Didn't have a Dreamcast, but yeah, it's such a unique title I've seen over the years. And this, I don't really know what this was. Super Mario Bros. 2, it looked like a kind of a storage device or for the Famicom Disk System. It's just nice to see these kind of things, isn't it? Pack Attack for the Super Nintendo. Now, this is a PAL version. They do have this out on display otherwise, but I was tempted with this one. It was a nice, clean version, and Pack Attack is always a nice little fun title. Mega Drive box, and first up we have Toy Story, and yeah, this is a game that I actually had on the Super Nintendo. I remember renting it from Blockbusters and getting all the way to the end. I vaguely remember completing it, and honestly, it's a weird one because I saw videos on this saying it was one of the most difficult games to ever play. Oh, if you think it's difficult on the Super Nintendo, try the Game Boy version. That's right, this one's got a Game Boy version. It does take away a few things, but it's kind of basic. But honestly, I really applaud this one, at least the Super Nintendo one. It had a lot of unique things. So, it does follow the plot of the original Toy Story movie, but it does have like stuff where like one of the bosses is a claw machine, for example. It's got like some like racing kind of ones, like some like kind of like side-scrolling, not I wouldn't say shooting, but side-scrolling flying missions. And there's one mission where you kind of basically like in the claw machine, but it's like a Doom kind of remake as well. Yeah, they tried to do a lot of things with this title. I like it, and maybe it's nostalgia talking. A lot of people don't like this one, but I really enjoyed it on the Super Nintendo. This one as well, Flinky. Now, Flinky is another platformer game, and it got mixed reviews, I suppose. It was compared to a lot to Mario Brothers, which at that point was about 10 years old, and it kind of just didn't hold up in a few people's eyes. It is fairly expensive now, so yeah, it's one of those ones where it probably didn't sell well enough, but it's quite beloved now in the Mega Drive sphere. We've got a few other Mega Drive titles here. Robocod, James Pond, Tom and Jerry. One of my friends absolutely hates this title, honestly. They hate it so much. I think at one point Games Galaxy had like about 10 of these. I just remember seeing them all over the place. Robocod, though, that is one I do have a lot of memories for. And it's been re-released so many times. So I think this was the title that I remember one of my friends who had a Mega Drive. They had this one. And I was so jealous. I played this so many times. But I never ever bought it. I never actually owned it on another console. I know it got DS remakes and like Super Nintendo remakes, and it's probably on the Switch and PlayStation 5, but I've never played it myself. But I do remember playing the original Mega Drive version of it. A nice stack of NTSC titles here: Mario World, Mario Kart, PAL Pilot Wings, and Super Swiv. Oh, that's a blast from the past. GameCube, and this is my jam. So many titles here that you don't see too often, including Ikaruga. Now, Ikaruga is a bullet hell shooter title in which, yeah, you basically have to kill the bosses and the enemies on the screen. I'm going to be honest, this is considered one of the most difficult games of all time. Not just on the GameCube, but all time. And it's one that has been eluding me for quite some time. Box isn't perfect, but honestly, this is one that I am very tempted with. A few others here: Star Fox Assault, Tales of Symphonia, Tetris Worlds. We bought that a few weeks ago. The Hulk, Pikmin, F-Zero, Metroid, BMX Triple X. The game that was too hot for everybody. Yeah, this was absolutely appalling. I'm just going to quickly get into it because we can't really talk about it. This was basically on the era of Tony Hawk's and BMX titles. We had BMX Triple X, which was very poorly received, and you can probably imagine why. Fairly expensive title on the GameCube as well. Don't see it too often. Fireblade, I've never heard of that one before. Smuggler's Run, another one that I actually have been looking for quite some time. Smuggler's Run Warzones. Now, this is a combination of Smuggler's Run 1 and 2. A lot of the missions were pushed together onto one release for the GameCube. A very underrated title that I don't think a lot of people even talk about, especially considering it's Rockstar. So many great GameCube titles there. I must admit, I'm tempted with the BMX Triple X. It's going to, if I go for a GameCube collection, it's one I'm going to have to buy eventually. And finally, PlayStation 2. Some unique titles that you don't see too often, and a few titles that I used to see all the time in stuff like Dixon's and Game and stuff like that, which, again, they were common back then, they're rare now. Steamboat Chronicles, never heard of this one before. It's one that obviously went under the radar at the time, and still under the radar, I suppose. It's always nice to see a lot of titles, especially PlayStation 2, which you just don't see too often. Tales of Destiny. Now, that's an interesting one because that one actually was re-released for the PSP, and I played through it on the PSP, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed classic Tales. However, I got to a certain point on it, but then just kind of stopped playing and never went back. I think it got to a point where you were just going between towns and nothing was really sinking in. You didn't really have any attachment to anything. And it kind of made things, I wouldn't say ruined it, but it kind of made the last half of the game a little bit more underwhelming, sadly, at least for me. It's one I would love to play through again if it should get a re-release, but it's one that I just don't see happening. A very rare title that I believe is also rare in America, and it's just nice to see over in the UK. I think we're going to stop here. We're going to head back. I'm going to tell you what I've picked up because it's been an absolute immense, and I mean immense, day for collecting. This box contains what I picked up from Galaxy Games, and honestly, Oh, now first up, a huge thanks to everybody involved. Huge thanks for letting me wander around the shop, video and stuff, and showing off some of the other product that you guys had that wasn't on the shelves yet. There's some really special stuff. There were some really special titles that we saw. PlayStation 1 titles I just hadn't seen before. Imports, Game Boy Color titles I remember seeing when I was a kid and never again. GameCube rarities, PlayStation 2 rarities. There was titles we were picking up and just going, I didn't even know this released on PlayStation. Didn't know this even actually had an English release. Oh, honestly, this is why we do it. We do it to get experience. We see unique titles we've never seen before and we get to show them to you guys. Make sure you guys go up to Games Galaxy at some point, because honestly it is worth your time. There is so much stuff on the shelves and I can only show you so much. I've been up there twice and I'm still going through the footage and going, oh, there's stuff I missed recording, there's stuff I wanted to show off more, and there's stuff that you guys, Xbox, Sega, you guys might have more of an idea of what you're looking for than I am. Get yourselves up there, spend a bunch of money, absolute worth it, and just thanks again for letting us go up. It's absolutely lovely experience time and time again. Let's see what I've picked up, shall we? Oh. So the first title I picked up was F1 Pole Position on the Nintendo 64. Now this isn't really an exciting title, this is yet another F1 game. And I think I'm about halfway through the F1 titles. I think there's 4 major titles. There's F1 Racing, there's F1 Racing 2, there's F1 Pole Position 64, and there's F1 Championship 64, which is an interesting one because we don't see that one too often. The other 3 are fairly common. I think F1 Racing is probably the most common N64 title. Every shop has it. But yeah, we don't see it too often. F1 Championship is the rarity, and I think it's more of an American rarity than a UK one. We're digressing though. F1 Pole Position 64. Honestly, it's an F1 game. This one was kind of like the standard for F1 titles until the F1 Racing Championship or F1 Racing came about and kind of had its throne kind of knocked off. This one, is it a bad game? No, by all means no. It's just kind of another drop in the ocean of the F1 titles. There are better F1 titles on the system, but this one, it's fine if you've got no other choice. Now that was the least exciting title out of all of these. The rest in this box, all hits. So next up we have Super Swift. Now this is an interesting title because this is not a title I had from my childhood, but it's a title I played in my childhood. I had a few friends who had like Super Nintendos and they had a bunch of titles. They had stuff like The Mask, they had Street Fighter, they had Thomas the Tank Engine, they had like Populous, they had Super Metroid. All of these titles that I never actually owned because, well, at the time we borrowed each other's games. One of the other titles they had was Super Swift, and I've never seen this game ever again, to the point that I was always believing that I actually just dreamt it. I've seen Swift on, say, like the Mega Drive, and I've seen them on the Sega consoles. I think I've seen them on the PC. I've never seen it on the Super Nintendo. So as soon as I saw this, I knew this one had to be in my collection. Now it is unboxed, it was a fairly cheap game, but it's one that holds some nostalgia for. And while I'm not actively collecting Super Nintendo, it is one that I am looking forward to going and playing again, because I think that's what we have to remember when it comes to a lot of these retro games and stuff like that. It is the memories you got from when you're a childhood. It's rebuying your childhood, but also making a bunch of new memories on top. The next title is something that is very special to me. Now, I actually own a bootleg copy of this and have done since childhood, but it's always been one that's been fairly expensive to buy, even in CEX. This franchise is absolutely insane, and you can see in just about every single retro game shop there is always tons and tons of product for this franchise. You guys know what it is. It's one of the top rated, top selling franchise of all time. It's the top selling JRPG of all time. It's one that is in just about every single person's childhood memories, if you're a certain age. And you'd be living under a rock if you've never heard of this one before. Pokémon Yellow. Now, I saw this and this one was instantly on my list. Now, this is an American box version of it. However, all of the other ones I actually got were American. The import one I have for Red, which the box is in the loft, but that is an American one because I imported it, as least I remember. Silver was an import. Emerald is an import. Leaf Green was an import. This was at a time when Pokemon would come out in America months, if not years, before the UK release. So just about every single one I had was imported. Now, this one, obviously, it was missing the manual, but that's what made it so cheap. I'm really excited to play more of this because honestly, I've not played Pokemon in so long, and this is the special Pikachu edition. This is the yellow version. So originally we had, in Japan, we had red and green, which turned into red and blue when released over in America and the UK. Because the anime was so popular, we got an extra edition, the special yellow edition, the special Pikachu edition, in which your starter Pokemon would be Pikachu. There's a lot more things relating to like Ash's journey into Pokemon. So obviously you've got like Team Rocket, like Jesse James, they pop up from time to time. You can get all of the other starters in like similar ways you would get them in the anime and stuff like that. It is a really good edition of the original OG gen. Now, like I said, it's missing the manual, and one of the things that I'm trying to find is what is the difference between Pokemon Yellow's manual and Pokemon Red and Blue's manual. It seems to be quite vague, but because it was so cheap, I think it's like an extra £100 for this with all of it in terms of CX and stuff like that, so I was happy just to kind of get what I did. But I'm looking forward to having another Pokemon journey just like I was a child. I had this bootleg version of this one which doesn't work anymore. I want a real version. And just for people who are wondering, I did boot this up. It had a save on where they were at Pewter City and they're getting like Pikachu, level 2 Pidgey. Pikachu was level 6 I think. They hadn't done like anything else, so I managed to get a Pewter City, so I don't know how they'd managed that. So yeah, that was an interesting thing, but yeah, I'm going to start my own. I might give you guys updates, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Absolutely chuffed to bits with having this in the collection, and I'm going to have to find some space for these Pokemon games. Now, one of the nice things they had in those boxes were an interesting collection of GameCube games. Now, I'm going to be honest, I went there expecting to pick up the Twilight Princess that I saw a few weeks ago. Sadly, for me, they'd sold it. But once I started seeing those GameCube games, there was a few titles that took my eye, and no, I did not buy BMX XXX. Now, the first one was a title that I had on PlayStation 2, and this is Smuggler's Run. Now, this is Smuggler's Run Warzones. It's been a while since I played PlayStation 2 version of it, and I believe this is maps from the first and second game put into one and kind of given their own little kind of spin on it. It's interesting. So this is by Rockstar before they really got into GTA 3, and again, like I mentioned with Body Harvest a few weeks ago, you can see a lot of the inspiration for GTA 3 when it comes to this. You're basically in these like cars and you kind of try to smuggle contraband and run from the police and kind of stuff like that, and it's a lot of big open world maps which you can explore, and it's kind of like you got to kind of race against other like challenge other like cars and stuff like that to try and get like the contraband, kind of like capture the flag kind of thing. It's a franchise that once GTA picked up, this one kind of just died along with the PlayStation 2 generation, but yeah, I always was kept my eye out for this one. I just never ever saw it. It's not too rare, but it's one that I just hadn't seen, and the quality of the box was extremely nice. I'm looking forward to digging deep into this one. I haven't had much of a chance to really play it, but I'm looking forward to doing so because this was one on my GameCube list that I really wanted to try out. Now, the next title is one that I just don't see very often in terms of GameCube. It's not like one of the rarest, but it is one that I think is fairly expensive, and it's one that I always looked at. I remember going to Woolworths and seeing this on the shelf so many times and picking it up and going, oh, do I not? No, I didn't get it. It was one that went really expensive, but I think has dropped back down in price, and the reason being I think it got a Switch re-release. It's also one of the hardest games, not only on the GameCube, but genuinely considered one of the hardest games of all time. It is Ikaruga. Now this isn't in the best condition, it's a little bit banged up, but you know what, I can swap this box for like a cheaper one, should I find one, because at the end of the day, a rarer title like this deserves it. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've sank a lot of hours into this after buying it. It was one, as soon as I saw it, I was just like, yeah, this is one is coming home with me. I knew as soon as I saw it. It was always in the back of my mind. I was like, if I see it for a good price, if I see it, I will pick it up. I think this is about £40, so always happy to pick up for this. Ikaruga, did I pronounce that right, is a bullet hell shooter and is generally considered one of the most difficult games on the GameCube, if not in general. It often comes very high in terms of difficult game lists and stuff like that. I'm really bad at these kind of games, but I'm going to be honest, I've had such a great time playing this. I think I've managed to get like to the level 2 boss, as probably that's nothing in terms of like ability, and it was a struggle to get there. It's one of those ones that I don't know why, I just kind of feel like it's one of those games I would love to get good at. I would love to get good at bullet hell shooters. I'm just not good at games in general, but honestly, I've had a really good time with this one. Such a good time. This is why I'm playing Smuggler's Run. I sat down, I plugged the GameCube back in, I set this up. I've had such a blast with this one. This reignited my love for the GameCube. Of course, I've been buying like GameCube like boxes only and stuff like that, but this one, I've put down the Switch, I put down the PlayStation. I've been playing GameCube Ikaruga for so long, and I'm so grateful that I've managed to get a decent copy for it for a decent price. Thanks, guys. Just a heads up, if you do like this kind of content and you are enjoying this, leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. It's absolutely free. No money needs to come to me about it. I do this absolutely for free, just to advertise the good word of retro games, get stuff in my collection, and get you guys eyes on some awesome retro game shops. Make sure you check out Galaxy Games if you haven't done so already. They've got a Facebook, they've got everything that you would kind of normally expect from socials, and they've always got some great new stock coming in more or less daily. Absolutely lovely people, absolutely fantastic shop. Get yourself up there. So the last title is one that I spoke about previously. Now, in the last video, you guys might have been aware that I saw a very specific game boxed, and it was always in the back of my mind. And as soon as I realised that Twilight Princess was gone, this was straight away must buy. Now, I am finding it more and more difficult to buy N64 games as time goes on. I can buy them all on eBay, no bother, but actually going and buy them in shops is getting more and more difficult. I looked at my list, I've got maybe about 5 or 6 really rare games or somewhat rare games to buy. Everything else is sports titles, or racing titles, or a few titles that just kind of pop up all the time. This is one I've never seen boxed for a long time. It's one I don't actually see often in terms of loose carts, but it's one that I feel like I wanted to pick up. That title is Killer Instinct Gold. Now, the Killer Instinct franchise was always a popular one on Super Nintendo, and in the very first year of the N64's release, we got Killer Instinct Gold, and this one instantly became one of, if not the best, fighting games on the console. Now, personally, I've never been hugely into fighting games. I always like Street Fighter. The one I can only really get away with is like Smash Bros. I've had a great time playing this one. Honestly, if I played this back in the day, I think I would have been more into fighting games on a whole. Like I said, I've said multiple times, I was a little bit too young for stuff like Street Fighter. For the Super Nintendo, I got into it at the very end. I did play Street Fighter at a friend's house, but I've never really gotten into it as a franchise. As N64 came along, I didn't really buy many of them. I bought Smash Brothers towards the end. When we went into GameCube, I bought Smash Brothers. I bought Soul Calibur because Link was in. I've never delved into fighting games on a whole, but I've had a good hour playing this, and I've had a good hour. Like I said, the N64 is very hit and miss when it comes to games on a whole. I know a lot of people don't really like them, and I think this is one that kind of doesn't get as much love as it possibly should. It is a rare game, rare in terms of the developer, but I think because GoldenEye, Perfect Dark and Banjo-Kazooie and even Conker kind of outshines everything else, this one kind of got bumped down on the list, and even then I just don't think the N64 is really well known for its fighting games. Racing, sports, platformers, GoldenEye, yeah, Ocarina of Time. Fighting games, not so much. I'm really chuffed to have this one in my collection. It's a really nice quality box. It's like obviously a little bit open. I haven't had a chance to get it in like this little plastic box and stuff like that, and it was a decent price. It was a really decent price. So guys, an absolutely fantastic haul, and honestly I'm just so happy. Super Swift, a title that I played maybe once or twice at a friend's house, lay dormant in my memory for so long. I can finally try it again. Pokemon Yellow, I can rejoin my journey to be the very best, and because at the end of the day, it's a Pokemon game. You can always have a good time with it. Killer Instinct, so I think this completes the rare collection as well. And this is the last rare game I really needed for the collection. I'm going to try and get Tui and Conker, maybe Box, but yeah, that is going to be something that we're going to kind of try and do, but yeah. GameCube, Smuggler's Run, Ikaruga, titles that are really on my list, and Ikaruga is, honestly, Ikaruga is probably one of the best games I've played this year. Even just including games I've replayed and stuff like that, this is one of the best games I have played this year. Absolutely rejigs my love for the GameCube. Remembering that there's so many games that I just didn't pick up at some point. So many hidden gems, and very difficult, very enjoyable. I'm absolutely chuffed to bits with my journey into Galaxy Games. And again, thanks to the lads, thanks to everyone who works there for letting me wander around, video stuff, thanks for obviously taking in the trade-ins and stuff like that, and just making the entire journey up there really nice. I mean, I go with friends as well, so thanks for everybody else like Sam, JJ, Chris, who obviously came with me. But like, every time we come back from Galaxy Games, it's just like, I can't wait to go again, can't wait to go again. And I've been to a few retro game shops and I don't always have that same experience, but Galaxy Games is always one that I just look forward to going back again and again and again. They're always getting tons of stock in, they're always getting putting new stuff on the shelves, while I've been like twice in like maybe a month, so some of the stuff does look very similar. They are getting new stuff in, they're moving stuff around, and things do feel different every single time. I'm not going to get again until the new year, but you can guarantee I'm going to take a bunch of money to try and get a chunk of GameCube titles, Game Boy titles, titles that I just had forgotten about. I can't wait to get back up there. And if you did like this, remember to leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps out, and it's absolutely free. I'm not charging you for to do anything. Subscribe to the channel, we'll get more word out about some awesome retro games, some retro game shops, and plenty more unique titles. See you there. Goodbye.